Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days. For today's second video, day 10 will take us to the 9th of January, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that. You said GFS and ECM ensembles and may run around a couple of weeks. And have a look at CFSV2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks. Gets us well into the second half of January. I shall get on with that for you in a moment. Just say that the first video you see was our 7 AM upload. No European Outlook today. All of the additional add-ons like European Outlook, just a broadcast, that sort of stuff is on the back burner this week, as it is Christmas week. I'm sort of scaling the content back a little bit this week, but things will be back to normal next week. Please like, share, subscribe on the video. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. It's New Year's Eve today, 30th of December, so I hope you're having a nice and relaxing New Year's Eve. Right, so going to start off with the situation in the stratosphere over North Pole. This is how things are currently looking in terms of temperature at 10 HPA over the Arctic and the North Pole. So we've got these blue colours here. These are the cold temperatures within the stratosphere at 10 HPA. We've got a little bit of warming occurring on both the Atlantic side of the Arctic and also on the Siberian side of the Arctic. That is very minor warming. And at the moment we have a strong polar vortex. And also, if that wasn't enough, we have these cold temperatures, 10 HPA in the stratosphere as well. Now, as we run through, when you see quite a significant warming of the stratosphere is going to occur. GFS is forecast that quite nicely through the first week of January over Siberia. So by the time you get through to the 5th of January, you have got, it's not a sudden stratospheric warming, but it is quite a significant warming of the stratosphere that is occurring over the, in the stratosphere over Siberia. Not getting into the Arctic, but kind of displacing the cold temperature of the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere, more towards the Canadian side of the Arctic. So a little bit of a displacement is taking place there because of this quite significant warming that's happening over the North Pole. To be honest, I doubt it will make that much difference so to the tropospheric level. That's how we're looking to get to 7th of January, by which time the warming over Siberia is just beginning to reduce somewhat. Into more extended range with this GFS 6Z run. So the warming begins to ease down a little bit between day 7 and 10, and then has a go at re-intensifying again and getting in towards the Arctic. Again, that one doesn't really come to a great deal though, but over time we do see that the blue colours, the cold temperatures at 10 HPA, kind of reduce in size, you know, from where we started off. If we go back to how it looks right now, have a large sort of area of cold and average temperatures there at 10 HPA. You know, and that looks rather reduced and stretched in fashion, you know, by the time you get through to the middle of January. So that would imply probably some sort of weakening of the polar vortex at its roots taking place there. Within within the stratosphere, albeit not a destruction of a polar vortex, but warming of the stratosphere does not get to the kind of level that we would classify as a sudden stratospheric warming that would split, for example, the polar vortex, or maybe even destroy the polar vortex at its roots. So the polar vortex will still be in business there up to the middle of January, but may be decelerating, may be slowing up, and kind of being weakened somewhat as it is as it's pushed around by these not sudden stratospheric warming, but relatively significant warmings of the stratosphere. So it's going to be one to watch, a slow burner. That I think eventually we will get to a sudden stratospheric warming though at some point through this winter. That gets to the 15th of January, so still lots of winter to go. Remember, the further on into winter you go, the more chance you get of getting a warming of the stratosphere. Right, really warmed out there today, exceptionally mild for the end of December. These are the latest temperature observations from XE Weather. We've been sort of forecast for this for a few days, so it's going to be really mild around the new year, and there we see it. We've got 16 degrees actually flashing away in Cambridge. I don't know if that's at the Botanical Gardens, the famous Botanical Gardens of Cambridge or not, but 16 degrees, 61 Fahrenheit, which would be more like the midday temperature you'd expect at the end of April, to be honest, than at the end of December. So this is an extraordinarily warm day, breaking date records. I don't think we're going to get like the December record broken today. Probably won't do it tomorrow either. That's around 18 degrees, I think. Probably not that long ago, actually. I think that's set from around December 2019, maybe. I'm sure someone will note in the comments. So I don't think we're going to get to that, but I think there's probably going to be a date record, I would imagine. Maximum and minimum date records will be falling left, right and centre today, tomorrow, and probably on New Year's Day as well. This is an exceptionally mild air mass that we are in. Otherwise, temperatures widening into the teens. Celsius, Cranfield at 14 degrees. We've got Hull Beach at 14 degrees. We've got Watcham at 14. We've got London City Airport at 15 degrees. Benson is at 15. Lynham is at 13. Yeovilton, southwest, is at 15 degrees. Northwick at 15. Newquay at 13. Going up into Wales. So move on from that place. We've got Lake Vyrnwy at 12 degrees. We've got Capel at 11. We've got Rhyl at 14. Leeds is at 13 degrees. Teesside is at 13. Bulmer is at 14. Widely into teens Celsius. I suppose parts get up to Scotland. Not quite as warm as that, but even so, Aviemore at 10 degrees. That's Aviemore, you know, high elevation, 10 degrees there. Inverness at 11. Kinloss at 12. Down into Belfast, 12 degrees there. This is an extremely warm day. I say warm rather than mild, you know, because we're talking about temperatures around 8 to 10 degrees above average, particularly across southern, central and eastern areas. Positively balmy and, you know, quite remarkable. These very mild days in winter do happen. So this is not, you know, something that's never happened before. We do get these very warm days in the winter. I mean, we can get the temperature to around 20 degrees just about in the winter, especially later on in February, in the right circumstances in 2019. I think got into the 20s, didn't we? 21 degrees, I think, was recorded at the end of February 2019. And then again, you know, 1998 in February, we got into the 20 Celsius there also. So, yeah, these very warm days do happen in winter, but I think they're probably getting a little bit more common than they were, you know, like 30 years ago. Would have been quite very, you know, unusual, very rare to get temperature this high. And now it's still unusual, and that's why it's a talking point. But it does happen a little bit more commonly than it did so like 20 or 30 years ago. Anyway, another exceptionally mild day, if not warm day, across most parts of the country. This is going to carry on for another couple of days, and then temperatures will lower. We'll talk about that in a moment. Central temperature obviously is going to respond to this. So the CT is currently standing at 6.1. which is 1.4 degrees above average, provisional to yesterday, to 29th of December. That's going to go to 6.5 in the end, we think. So it is going to be a significantly more than average month. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Birmingham. Obviously, we're starting off exceptionally mild, if not warm, at the moment. The temperature is going to get very close around New Year's Day to 10 degrees at 850 HPA, which is kind of like 10 degrees or more above average. Remember, these are upper air temperatures, but the same is true on the surface, really. So, yeah, you know, the next couple of days are going to be exceptionally mild. From around 2nd of January onwards, we get a cool down. And by the time we get through to like the 3rd, 4th of January, we're actually having a little bit of a cold snap appearing then. It only lasts for a day, and then the temperature goes back up to slightly above average, but nowhere near the level of warmth we're at the moment. And then, you know, through the rest of the first half of January, this gets us to the middle of the month, rest of the first half of January, be close to average, really, which I suspect is masking a little bit of zonality going on. So with warmer and colder sectors offsetting one another, the ensembles come out quite close to average. But generally, at this time of year, even though it doesn't look particularly mild, we will probably still be milder than average due to the fact that it is Atlantic-driven pattern, which means we won't get much away of night frost. And even when we're in the colder sectors, it won't be particularly cold away from northern and western parts of Scotland, and just quite unsettled as well. Going to be regular precipitation from start to finish. So it looks like the first half of January is shaping up to be rather zonal, but we are going to lose the excessive heat. I'll say heat, you know, hot weather, heat wave. Really, we're going to lose the excessive heat wave that we've got over this new year. In terms of the 2 meter temperature, we can see this change showing up quite nicely there as well. So again, we're starting off with maximums around 14 or 15 degrees. You know, actually increases by a degree or two normally. So you know, going to be in mid-teens Celsius over the next couple of days. There's the drop in temperature taking place through the opening days of January. So actually going rather cold by the time we get through to around the 5th of January. We're colder than average with maximums, you know, around 4 or 5 degrees and probably some night frost mixed in. It only lasts for a couple of days and then we're back into average to relatively mild conditions. Again, that is masking quite a lot of up and down that's going on. So you can see there's some relatively warm sectors coming through at times, but also some colder sectors. When you average it all out, we're probably a little bit, you know, a little bit above average with the temperature there for the second week of January, I suppose. Let's have a look at snow row. See what that's doing. So not all that much showing up. There's a few spikes there around the 5th of January. When that's when we have that little cold snap. And then maybe more towards like the middle of the month, perhaps, but even they're a minority. So nothing definitively wintry in the first half of January for Birmingham. Obviously, the next few days are going to be completely snow-free with the temperature being so mild. So it won't be until around the 4th or 5th of January, but we might get some wintry showers or something beginning to appear. Temperature anomalies on the 30th of December to the 7th of January are going to be significantly above average. We are not alone in this. Most parts of Europe looking really mild, if not warm. However, the cold Nordic winter goes on. So up across Scandinavia, away from southern Sweden and Denmark anyway, most areas are still looking quite cold, as is much of northeastern Europe. So Finland, you know, cold winter carries on there into western parts of, or northwestern parts of Russia. Cold winter goes on there. Iceland looks rather cold as well. So as it has been through this winter so far, the cold, it is quite impressive to see the cold clinging on actually when it is so mild. You know, you've got so much warmth being brought in from the Atlantic. You would think that cold weather across Scandinavia would be sort of swept away, but actually the cold weather is going to hang on quite well, I think, across large portions of Scandinavia and northeastern Europe, which does imply that you know, later on in winter, maybe when the jet stream and the Atlantic eases off the gas, you know, we might be in business for some colder weather pushing into other parts of Europe. But for the time being, a very, very mild, if not warm week to come. Precipitation-wise, around average really for precipitation for the UK. So 1 or 2 areas a little bit drier than average, a few areas a bit wetter than average. It's not a particularly big deviation though either way. The latest info map from earthnorthschool.net shows these long fetch southwesterlies being dragged our way. So if we push this map up a little bit, look, did this the other day, you will see where the air is originating from. And, you know, when we talk about a long fetch southwesterly, it's about as long fetch as it can get, really. So that's the Canary Islands just there. We've got the Azores just there, and you'll see that actually the air originates south of the Canary Islands and south of the Azores, somewhere around here. So this really is an extraordinarily long fetch southwesterly that we are in, dragging the air up from pretty much off the bottom of the map, to be honest, and dragged up a little bit more. So yeah, the air is originating from around here, I suppose, which is in the central part of the subtropical Atlantic, and going in that direction. So that's the reason it's so warm out there today, and we're breaking records, not just for today, but for the new year as well. The cold northerly and northeasters are to our north. They're up here, and so far being kept there by all of this warm weather. So they're sort of locked in around Iceland and in the Norwegian Sea. It is quite cold still up there. Of course, lots of areas of low pressure marking the boundary. So we're on the boundary between all of the cold air, but it's up to the north, and this warm air coming up from the tropical Atlantic. There's lots and lots of low pressures and weather fronts and things going on that marks the boundary between the warm and the cold air masses. Right, so let's look at some chart data. I'm going to start off with UK Met Euro. This is how the UK Met Euro looking at midnight on Sunday. We're still in this very mild southwesterly by then. But begin to go a little bit less warm, I suppose, in the north and west. And 24 hours on to midnight on Monday, then we have cut off that very warm southwesterly with turn the wind into westerly, which is still a mild wind direction. But, you know, it's just more typically mild, that, rather than being completely ridiculously mild. That low pressure then clears off into Norway by Tuesday, and we turn wind into the north. So that's a little cold snap. I was talking about around the 4th and the 5th of January. We'll get a little bit of a cold snap from the north. Could deliver some wintry showers to northern areas, and maybe some overnight frost as well. Very quickly, the wind starts backing into the west, so by the time we get into the 5th and the 6th of January, we're back into westerly winds. So relatively mild, nowhere near as exceptionally warm as it is right now, just sort of bog standard mild, wet, windy weather coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. Nothing exceptional about that, just standard mild winter weather with wind and rain moving in from the west. That's as far as we get to with the UK Met Euro. Let's have a look at the icon model, which we are now including within our roundup of chart data. So this is how icon is looking. I'm just going to flip this over actually. So there we go. So icon is looking for midnight on Sunday. Again, still in that very mild southwest wind, warm southwest wind in southern and east. Begin to go a little bit cooler though towards the north and towards the northwest as well. They're going to like a standard westerly by the time we get through to the 3rd of January, which will lower the temperature back to a more sensible level. Still probably a bit above average, but lowering the temperature there by the beginning of next week. A little bit of a northerly snap as we get through to the 4th of January, so that could bring some wintry showers to Scotland and possibly an overnight frost. Dum dum dum! Who would have thought an overnight frost in the winter? Wow, wow, wow! How exciting! And then we go another 24 hours on, and that northerly is cut off as the next low pressure comes in off the Atlantic. That starts to bring milder, wetter and windy weather back in from the west, all looking very sort of zonal this, very westerly. That's how we look by Thursday, the 6th of January, a week today, sort of mild, wet and windy, really. But again, nowhere as exceptionally warm as it is right now, just standard Atlantic-driven winter weather. Temperature probably low, temperature probably upper single digits in the north and like low double digits in the south, so like 11 or 12 degrees, but not exceptional warmth as we have at the moment. That's how we look as we get to midday on Thursday, which is as far as we go with icon to midday on Thursday the 6th of January, when we're just looking zonal and westerly at that point. GFS midnight run looking like this. So again, we're cutting off that southwest as we go through the weekend and into the early part of next week, turning wind into west, which is still a mild wind direction, but not as warm as it currently is. A little bit of a cold snap, trying to get in around the 4th and the 5th of January, but its days are numbered with so much low pressure in the Atlantic. So any attempt to turn it colder around the middle of next week is doomed to fail, because the Atlantic is just too active, and that comes sweeping back in by the end of next week. Up to day 10, the GFS keeps the winds in from west, so it's generally relatively mild and still unsettled, especially for northern and western areas. In my extended range, the low pressure begins to drop southwards as we go into the 2nd week of January. Heights rising a little bit to our north, and then we get these areas of low pressure sort of sitting around the country, and then we tend to build a Scandinavian high as well, so I think the GFS midnight run goes off the rails a little bit later on. But even then, you'll notice that we keep the wind in from the west, so that is a relatively mild but also quite unsettled first half to January. The 6Z looks like this. Once more, we're cutting off that very warm southwesterly wind as we get into the second half of the weekend, and early next week into like a westerly, which is going to be mild, but not as exceptionally so as it is right now. By Tuesday, the 4th of January, we're trying to build a ridge down from the north. That's pulling in something a little bit colder into northern areas, and then we get this area of high pressure, this ridge of high pressure building around middle of next week. That might deliver some frost, might get a few wintry showers in the north with that. But second half next week, we're back into those westerlies again, And they carry on then up to day 10. Low pressure continues to roll in from off the Atlantic, bringing wet and windy weather at times. This mobile zonal weather carries on right way up to middle of the month. No let up in the areas of low pressure and the westerlies. By then, 15th of January, we will be coming out above average, you know, for the first half of January, following on from a warmer than average December. So the first half of winter 2021-2022 will be above average, will be warmer than average if this forecast is correct. That's not to say what's going to happen in the second half of winter, of course. It might go much colder in the second half of winter, but the first half of winter coming out, you know, quite significantly above average with that. Moving on to the GM. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for doing that. And drop a comment there so much about this and all of our videos. Thank you so much. GM, again, cutting off that southwesterly. Around Sunday and Monday, turning to a westerly wind, which will still be relatively mild, but will be a lot cooler than we've got right now with this insane warm weather that we have at the moment. Into open next week, that low pressure will clear away. We'll build a ridge. Should we catch up, be a little bit colder. Might deliver a night frost if we're, you know, lucky. We might get a night frost out of that in the middle of winter. How exciting. And then we get through to the second half next week, and low pressure quickly starts to displace that, and we're back into milder, wetter and windier weather again, possibly hinting at a bit of a northerly by day 10 with heights rising in the Atlantic. I would take that with bucket loads of salt. And then the ECM, once more, we cut off that southwesterly over the second half weekend into the early part of next week. Temperatures will cool down to a more sensible level, but will still be relatively mild. Very fleeting cold snap then around Tuesday through to Wednesday as winds turn into the north briefly. Before the high pressure collapses southwards and low pressure is back in through the second half next week, bringing further wet, windy and relatively mild weather, and that carries on all the way up to day 10. This is the precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from tometeo.com, so plenty of showery bursts of rain coming and going, quite a bit of wet weather. A little bit cold around the middle of next week. That's that cold snap might deliver some wintry showers to the far north and east of the country. And then as it turns a bit milder around Thursday next week, we might bring some snow into the north very temporarily as it turns back to rain quickly. Behind that, we go into a showery westerly. That's a little bit colder, deliver some wintry showers to northern and western areas, and then we finish up looking like that, back into relatively mild conditions by day 10, which is the 9th of January. Generally quite wet, especially through the central swathe of the country. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10. Gets us to the 9th of January from the Icelandic Met Office. 20 members of the ECM ensembles have low pressure to our east, an area of high pressure out to the west. So unsettled and a little bit of a cool snap could be going on there. That might be similar to what the GM is doing at day 10 with perhaps a little bit of a cool snap. Another 60 members of the ECM ensembles here with low pressure again to our east and south, a ridge of high pressure in the Atlantic. Again, that might deliver a little bit of a cooler or colder snap. Winds in from the north and northeast. It will be very temporary though. This area of low pressure is going to roll in over the top and turn wind back into the west. And then we've got 15 with low pressure, more or less still over top of the country, and not as much of a ridge in the Atlantic. So that's just generally relatively mild with winds continuing from west. That does include the control and also the operational run. We may get a day or so of cooler weather around day 10, but overall it looks Atlantic driven, and so therefore relatively mild. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This will get us to the 14th of January. 18 members of the ECM ensembles have high pressure over to the south, low pressure be to the north, and winds will be coming in from a westerly direction. A little bit more settled, but it will be very mild if that comes off. 10, much more exciting, with a Scandinavian high, and winds will be in from the east with that. 9 with low pressure out to the west. That's going to be unsettled and relatively mild. 8 with high pressure, more or less over top of the country. That will be dry and potentially frosty. And then 6 with low pressure driving in from off the Atlantic. That's going to be relatively mild as well. So it's a range of options by middle of January. We might turn things cold. I just got to answer the phone. Okay, back. Sorry about that. So, yeah, we may get things a little bit colder by the middle of January, but, you know, a range of options and nothing definitive. I would suspect that up to the middle of January it's going to be relatively mild and Atlantic-driven still, probably. CFS-V2, finally, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will take us from the 30th of December to the 5th of January. The coming week we'll have above average heights to our south and below average heights to our northwest, and winds will be coming in from a southwesterly direction, so of course very mild with that wind direction. Week 2 will be the 6th to the 12th of January with lots of low pressure to the north, high pressure pulled away from us into the Atlantic, and winds coming in from the west, so unsettled, mild but not as exceptionally so as it is right now. Week 3 will be the 13th to the 19th of January. The Atlantic weather goes on, so low pressure continues to move in from off the Atlantic with westerly winds as well. And then finally we get to week 4, which will be the 20th to 26th of January, with low pressure to our north and northwest, and we continue to bring in the winds from the west. You'll notice a complete absence of any sign of northern blocking by that point whatsoever. In fact, it might even be the re-emergence of the PV of Doom, this deep low just here. It's around Greenland, Iceland. It does look rather ominous, that. But again, you know, it's just one run of the CFS-V2, so may look different tomorrow. It's 4 weeks away, for example, although we do see it again there on the week 3 500 millibar height anomaly as well, to be honest. So yeah, grim times for anyone who wants sustained cold or wintry weather. Right, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a smash your like button, make sure you sub to the channel. Thank you so much for doing that. And drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. Don't forget to tell your friends and family about GavsWeatherVids. That's amazing, incredible. Thank you so much, everyone, for doing that. Right, so we're done, and we're going to be back tomorrow with another 10 to 14 day as well. And if that wasn't enough, we'll have, I think we're going to have 7 AM broadcast as well tomorrow. So do keep checking back to the channel for more. But this one, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.